Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, and children of all ages, it is now time for Jeremy's Pedal Power Hour. That's right, I'm Jeremy with Lifted Adventures, and this is Jeremy's Pedal Power Hour, where you guys run the show. Every so often I have a live stream just like this where I have other YouTubers, mountain bikers, professional mountain bikers, and people of the leading industry on here, and we just have a chat and talk mountain biking and cycling, just have fun with it, and you guys run the show. So let me get to my guest right now, and I'm going to say his name right because I've been saying his name completely incorrect for a while now. His name is Aaron Lutze. Aaron Lutze. Thank you, Aaron, for hopping on my show tonight. How are you doing, man?
Doing well. Thanks for having me. Stoked to be here.
I'm stoked I got to say your name actually correct, and I'm glad before I asked you, make sure I said it correctly. I would have embarrassed the junk out of myself. I really thought it was Lutz, like it's like lunchtime, Lutz time, but Lutze is 10 times cooler, so that's awesome, dude. Well, yes, everybody, thank you so much for coming on. The way this works is, as you can see, we are live. This is completely live. Aaron is really right there. He's not fake. He's a real person. You type some questions out, and I will ask them. I want you guys to feel like you're running the show. I'm just a middleman asking your questions so that you can get to know who I have on the show, and Aaron is on tonight. So get some questions out there, and let's start this, man. So, yeah, Aaron, you have been in the biking scene for a pretty good amount of time. Even though you have a face that looks younger than I am, you are a little bit older than me, but you've been with some pretty, as you've said, some OGs in the industry. Kind of go over your past and how you got into mountain biking and cycling, period, everything.
Sure. So I actually grew up in Wisconsin, which I think at the time, specifically when I was growing up, definitely wasn't a hotbed of mountain biking. Now I think with like more fat biking and gravel riding, it's probably a bit more common there than it used to be. But when I grew up, it wasn't really a thing. There were a couple trails nearby, but nothing special. I was on a trip with my parents, and we were in Idaho. We just stopped at like a random campground, and I was pedaling around the campground, and this German kid came up to me. He's like, "Let me see your bike real quick." And he got it, and he started hopping on the back wheel, and then he hopped over a picnic table. And this is like my cross country bike. It's not a special bike or anything.
Yeah, yeah.
I was like, wait, my bike can do that? And so I just, hey, show me how to do that stuff. And we ended up staying at the campground for a couple of days. And so I kind of got this like one-on-one little master class with this guy, and he got me off to a start. And we were on this family vacation for the next 2 weeks or so. So by the time I got home to my friends who were riding cross country with me, I had developed this like foundation of trial skill and had like the jump on them. And so I just kind of leaned into that and eventually became a pro trials rider. From there, I did everything from, bike shop demos to the Vans Warped Tour for 2 years to eventually starting a video production series, a video magazine called Match Video Zine. We made 9 videos there. We worked with DH Productions, and then we ended up making a bunch of other videos after that as well. But that really kind of put my foot in the door with the mountain bike industry at large. And as a lot of the trials riders became street riders, and a lot of the street riders became slopestyle riders, and a lot of the slopestyle guys turned into big mountain guys, I was there with a front row seat and a camera for, that element of progression within our industry. So super exciting time to, be around and witness a lot of this stuff firsthand.
That's awesome. You're a special breed. You don't really see a lot of, out on the trails especially, you see some trials, practices done on mountain bikes out on the trails, but you don't really see like trial specific people. So you're a kind of the breed is kind of starting to push up, and your channel is really making it look cool and making me want to get out there and buy a new bike that is specific for it. My wife doesn't need to know that I don't need a specific bike for it, but it's always great to have a new bike. But that's awesome, dude. was it a hard thing to start learning, or was it a pretty? Did you take to it pretty quickly?
A lot of the stuff that I practiced in the first year or two was really foundational stuff, just getting my balance. And at that point, I mean, I was 16 years old at the time, so I was really still figuring out how to bunny hop and track stand. I was going through the first, you know, uh, learning process of riding a bike and getting decent at riding bikes, as well as trying to learn trials at the same time. So it was kind of like a double whammy.
Yeah.
In Wisconsin, where I grew up, it snowed really heavily during the winter. So I did a lot of practicing in my parents' basement. We had like a ping pong table, and I would just ride around the ping pong table and practice like hopping in place or balancing or riding over a pallet or something like that. But I had to use what I had to try to get what I could. And so it was kind of slow going, not being able to ride outside all the time, not having, mountains to ride on and stuff like that. And so I think it took longer than it probably would have if I was in maybe a little bit more convenient environment. And of course, like this is pre YouTube, so you can't just
Yeah.
type in like how to hop on your back wheel.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
You really had to figure it out for yourself. But I think a lot of what I'm trying to do now is try to demystify some of that stuff. Like hopping on your back wheel looks crazy, but you could learn it in an afternoon easily. And so part of what I'm trying to do with my channel is show people some of the foundational elements of how to do trials, because a lot of the stuff, like maybe back wheel hops aren't exactly the perfect thing for trail riding, but
Yeah.
a lot of like the up and overs and just bike control that comes from trials would
Exactly.
help out just about any rider. And so
Exactly.
part of the aim is to kind of provide some of that as well.
Well, I mean, it's all balance and all that, and that's all going to help every single thing in mountain biking and everything. We're already getting some questions. I don't know how serious of questions they are. They're kind of funny. Tim Zimmerman and even Eric Porter is asking and wants to know too. Is it true rocks are heavier in South Africa? How many can you fit in an average camera bag?
This is a great story.
I want to know.
I think it was actually New Zealand, not South Africa.
Mm-hmm.
So Porter and I were in New Zealand. I'm pretty sure it was New Zealand. I forget where we were, but I was complaining about how heavy my camera bag was. So
Yeah.
at the time, I was doing a lot of filming. I would go with Porter and all these other pros. We'd go film in epic locations for a bike sponsor or some project of some sort. And I had all my video gear, my lenses, camera, batteries. In a lot of cases, actually traveled with the laptop. Like one time we were in Africa and I had no access to power for like a couple of days, so I just had to keep dumping the footage onto my computer and just hoping that the battery would hold until we got to the next plug-in.
Uh-huh.
But in this case, we were riding somewhere and I was complaining about how heavy my bag was, and it had these little pockets on the side that were maybe about this big.
Uh-huh.
And
I think I know where this is going.
when I wasn't paying attention, I'd maybe put my camera bag down somewhere.
Uh-huh.
Porter filled all the other
Yeah.
pockets that I never used with
Uh-huh.
these like volcanic rocks. And then like a month later, we were, I think maybe in Spain or somewhere. We were somewhere else in the world, and I was like, man, this thing is just like really, And I unzipped one of the things and found the rocks in there.
Oh, jeez.
And Porter had his moment to be like, so
That's
yeah,
awesome.
definitely some good pranks to yeah.
I can tell you got some nice pranks because you got some buddies on here commenting. They're asking. One's halfway mountain biking oriented. The others are just not. Ask about Myers coaching. Peter Myers coach is asking. Ask about the night we got pulled over at the UCI World Champs in Italy.
Oh man, yeah, we've had some pretty interesting times. All this filming stuff has put us in like so many epic places,
Yeah.
and given us a lot of opportunities to behave questionably.
Well, let's not get my video demonetized, because the next one was asking about how you pissed your pants. So we'll just we'll try to keep it to mountain biking oriented. So go ahead.
That actually is mountain biking.
Oh, that is
oriented,
mountain
but
biking, or
that's
go ahead.
It's another Porter story. I feel like we already told one Porter story.
We don't want to give him too much credit. If anybody wants to see Porter, go back. I interviewed him a couple weeks ago. That's hilarious. That's cool. So where did you like when did you decide that, you would really was it right then and there whenever that kid was showing you trials riding? Was it when did it really kick in that you wanted to do that? When was it really big to you? Was it right there or well, later on?
Yeah, I mean, I think at that stage, as a mountain biker, the only videos that any of us had access to were Honore videos, and every video that was out had at least one trials element in it. It was something that was so cool and so exciting. And every time that part would come on, that was the part you always like rewinded to or fast forwarded to.
Hmm.
And and it seemed impossible, like how does anybody do any of this stuff? It's just magic. And so for someone to kind of just like crack the door a little bit and be like, this is how you start down that path was super exciting. And honestly, like at that point in my life, in high school, I was the shortest kid and not athletic in any way, shape, or form. And so trials is way more about technique and like pedal pressure and brakes and all this stuff where you don't have to be 6 feet tall and just shredded to be able to do it like you would, racing or whatever. So I didn't have to worry about my physical stature as I was progressing in that sport versus, yeah, there's no way I was going to be the best cross country rider in the Midwest or there wasn't really any downhill in Wisconsin, but this was something that I saw the door open was like, oh, this could be my thing because I'm not restrained by anything here and I can just keep practicing and practicing and the momentum just kind of came from there and here I am.
That's awesome. That's awesome. When did filmmaking? I mean, we've talked a little bit, and Eric talked about you a little bit too. But you've been making mountain biking free ride edits for a pretty good amount of time, way before YouTube and any online access was happening. What kicked that whole thing off?
Yeah, when I was in college, actually, my roommate junior year saw me. I was like the bike kid on campus. Like I kept my bike in my dorm room. I would go hop around on all the vents on campus, and generally known as like that's the dude that hops on everything. And I got paired with this random guy in college, and he was like, hey, I could just go out with you and film you doing whatever you're doing, and I have software I could edit this stuff together, and then maybe you guys can like do something with that. And so I was like, oh, this sounds cool. Like, let's go do it.
Hmm.
And so we went out on campus and we filmed a bunch of stuff. And then I think I was going to Chicago the next week and I was like, hey, you want to come with and film some of my other friends? And so we started kind of filming a bunch of stuff and I started learning how to edit, kind of just watching him, like looking over his shoulder and being like, oh, I could do that. You just put that there and put that there. And so it just kind of went from there. I got my hands on a camera. I was traveling and riding with a bunch of pros at the time and doing demos and just kind of all over the place where I could capture all the content, which is always the hardest part, And
Yeah.
I would bring that back to our dorm room. We'd edit it. And at one point we had enough to make a full length movie. And so we made what became Match Videos, and that was the first one. It was all trials content. And everywhere I went, I just kept the camera with me. I would film my friends and then I'd hand them the camera to film me.
Hmm.
And that just kind of kept going and kept going to the point where, I essentially, as trials kind of switched over into street riding and free riding and all that kind of stuff, I started getting to film with more and more people. And there was so many people to work with and so many cool things happening that I just kind of put my bike down and started, paying attention to everybody that was out there, filming with them. And then I was in it, like had that front row seat to the beginning of essentially all the free ride stuff happening, and was able to travel and meet everybody, and yeah, the doors kept opening. I got to work with Don Hampton, and got to work with a bunch of brands, and we were making not only these mountain bike videos, but we were also making video content that would just get shoved onto the company's website, because this is before a YouTube where you would just embed stuff.
Yeah.
When we were doing it, we would just take like the footage from that rider, and then you'd put the company logo over the bottom, and then you give them like a flash video that they would plug into their site. And that was really how it all began.
That's awesome. That's awesome. And it just kind of escalated to you making some pretty popular, what do they call it, cult videos. back in the day. Let's see, what was the one you had mentioned? I keep losing it, having brain farts. Eric mentioned it to me earlier too. What was the name of the
It could have been Summer of Shred.
Summer of
That was
Shred?
one.
Yes, Summer of
Yep.
Shred.
Yep.
That's the big one.
Yeah, that one really came about in an interesting way. I was in Europe and I was working for Tarek Razuli, and we were on the Qashqai series, which was like a 5 event stop. And I was with Phil Sunbaum, who at the time was one of the better free ride kind of dirt jump slopestyle guys in the U.S.
Yeah.
And he basically got invited to the first one and didn't have any like mega sponsors that were really taking care of a lot of stuff, and was just kind of like trying to stay in Europe and compete as long as he could, and was sleeping on my floor. And I was, we were on this bench on waiting for a train, and I was like, how is it that this guy is so talented, but he's sleeping on my floor, and no one's really backing him and whatever. I feel like there's got to be something we can do here. And so we kind of finished off the season. I was like, let me put something together here. And this is kind of like, I had the video thing figured out, but I was really starting to figure out the marketing that went around it. Like, how do I come up with an idea that people will put money into so that I can go execute the video?
Mm-hmm.
And so, the camera and the filmmaking stuff was more of like an arrow in the quiver versus like the entire thing. It was really, how do you take an idea and make it worthwhile to these companies that are, helping you make it happen? And so we put this idea together of like, we're going to go ride every different style of bike with the best rider in that discipline. We're going to go ride downhill bikes with Greg Minar. We're going to go ride dirt jumping bikes with Timo. We're just going to go all over the world and do all this stuff. And I actually remember the marketing manager for Haro, after we'd finished everything, we went to Africa with Hans Ray. After we'd finished making the video and putting it out, she was like, yeah, when you guys were at Interbike with us, like, I thought maybe you'd get like half of this stuff done and that would be still like really good for us.
Uh-huh.
And you actually were able to do all the stuff you said you were going to do. All right, And so it was really like a testament to like, yeah, if you put the right pieces together in the right way, like, you can go make this stuff happen. And that's really where Summer of Shred kind of came from.
Yeah, you've had some awesome experiences, some awesome places, and Eric's asking for you to mention about how about the Midwest Trials series and the community around that. He said that's where you two actually met. So, good story behind that.
There's actually, it's kind of interesting. Like the Midwest Trials scene was a pretty tight knit community, and a lot of those people are still kind of around and doing epic stuff. Like there were a bunch of Chicago riders, like Mike Reisenleiter worked for SRAM for a number of years. Our friend Travis Engel up until recently was working for Bike Magazine as, I think, one of their gear editors or tech editors or something. So like a lot of the people that kind of came up in this scene ended up sticking around in the bike industry for quite some time. Porter, obviously. There was a number of different events and stuff. And there's this one like 3-day event just outside of Indianapolis that everybody would come and like camp at this dude's house and hang out. And he would have 3 days. I think it was called like Midwest Triple Threat or something like that.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, it was a super tight knit community, and we were always, doing demos and meeting up with each other to ride and film and all this kind of stuff. And yeah, there's oddly like the Midwest for mountain biking. There was a lot of really interesting stuff there, and it's really cool. Like, I mean, having met Porter back then and still being homies, like, what is that, like 20 years later, is pretty incredible that so many of those friendships, lasted and everyone continued to kind of stick around in the industry. It wasn't just like a flash in the pan.
Yeah. Don Hampton's saying he loves your shirt, your match. You had said you're gonna wear that. That's awesome.
This is one of the original ones that somehow lasted in my closet for.
It looks good. Like he's saying OG match shirt too, and that looks like you have never put it on. It's been inside of a little glass press up on your wall for forever. That's awesome.
These may need a reissue. I don't know, but yeah, we've been talking about Don and I have been talking about maybe just re-releasing Match, because so many of the people that were in it are still around and riding, and in some cases, I mean, Semenuk was like 16 or 17 like when we filmed the last one. So you might see some riders in there who now are like top of the game, but we're coming up in those later issues that we put out. But yeah, it was kind of, everybody figuring it out. Back in the day, there was a lot of skate park riding, a lot of
Mm-hmm.
dirt jump riding, and it was really all these riders. It was almost like somebody put it to me like it's like going to the gym where you're not going to the gym to only go there. You're going to the gym so that when you go out and do this activity, you're strong and fit and ready for it. And so riding a skate park, the end wasn't being good at riding skate parks.
Yeah.
The end was taking what I learned in the skate park and putting it in the mountains somewhere. And so that whole chapter of free ride where everybody was like doing the work, getting the reps in
Mm-hmm.
to bring their game up to being able to do, flares in the mountain or whatever. That's where a lot of those things were, is stuff happening for the first time, and that was the most exciting part of all that stuff. And it will be fun to go back and look at all the content that we shot, in the early 2000s and see, familiar faces, but as they were kind of learning those first steps into the whole scene.
Yeah, that's cool. Now you've done a lot of trials riding, obviously. Um, do you pretty much like your YouTube channel for one? And everybody, if you're new here and you don't know who Aaron is, go down the link below. His YouTube channels, down in this comment section below. His link is down there, and check him out. He's got some awesome trials, instructional videos, and everything there, which I'm even still scared to even try. But do you do any like other? Is that mostly what you do? Is trial stuff? I know that's what you're best known for and everything. But do you get out and ride mountain?
Yeah, yeah. I mean, Portland is pretty, not Portland proper, but like the mountains and
Yeah.
trails around, in Hood River and everything. There's some great stuff out here. We actually just got our own bike park in Portland, which is mega overdue. It's supposed to be like this bike-friendly city, and
Mm-hmm.
we just finally got a bike park, so that's sweet. But yeah, I do a lot of trail riding, and then the trials thing is like trail riding, is 45 minutes to an hour away is
Mm-hmm.
where the best trails are. So when I don't have the amount of time to go out and ride there, it's usually pick up the trials bike and ride around my house somewhere, or even in our backyard now. There's like some pretty legit stuff that we just had built. But yeah, I mean, it's kind of a little bit of both. As the weather gets better, I'm hoping to do a lot more just straight up mountain bike stuff.
See, that's what's cool about trials is, I mean, you showed it in one of your last videos. You went to a stinking just playground, kids' playground with some stumps and some rocks and all that kind of stuff, and you found yourself a trials park, made it in there, and that's the cool thing. You can just take it anywhere and do it. That's really cool. Now you've traveled a lot of places with your filmmaking and your trials. You are a Red Buller. You work for Red Bull, and you've gotten some probably some good traveling from that. Do you want to talk a little bit about what you do for Red Bull?
Oh, sure. So I'm an athlete marketing manager for Red Bull, which basically means I scout and sign all of our, not all, but like a lot of our Red Bull athletes. Um, Obviously, the mountain bike athletes are essentially my specialty, but I've got athletes in pretty much every discipline that I get a chance to work with. And yeah, it's been really cool. I think a lot of it is kind of from what I did in mountain biking, where I took Phil from this guy is insanely talented and is still on his way up, and what can I do to support this guy to get him to where I think he should be. I think it's really kind of the same thing. I just find really talented people who deserve an opportunity, and then I work as hard as I possibly can to get them to where I think they should be.
That's
So
awesome.
yeah, it's kind of a continuation. I feel like everything that I've done at Red Bull over the last 11 years has been exactly that: find epic people and do everything I possibly can to help them
Jill Kentner says, "Yeah, you're my hero. He's my
out.
hero." That's awesome.
Awesome.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
So
No,
what
just
with all these all this traveling, what's been your favorite place to first off, what's been your favorite place to just go? Through Red Bull, through trials, through film, what's been your favorite place that you've ever gone to?
I think it's got to be New Zealand. Queenstown, New Zealand is the mecca. Like,
Yeah.
we used to spend a month there, usually like January, February every year, just because it's essentially a lot warmer down here than it is here.
Yeah.
Truthfully, I mean, everything there is just exactly what you want it to be. Like, the trails are amazing, the
Mm-hmm.
people are great, like everything there is just incredible. And It's a really long flight, even from the West Coast, but it's only a couple hours, difference. So you don't get super jet lagged like you would going to Europe or something like that. But we always had such an epic time there. We were really close with Kelly McGarry and our friend Caleb, who ran Spoke Magazine over there for a while. Like we always had such great hospitality with the fruit farm, and it was just like we look forward to going there every year. And especially in January, February, there wasn't anything else that you could really do. So like definitely go somewhere epic and enjoy. Yeah, we've had an opportunity to go to a lot of crazy places. New Zealand is, I think, number one. I'd say like a close second. We went to Malaga, Spain. Porter was on that trip. Actually, Porter organized that trip, and we rode with Ruben Alcantara, and it was, yeah, epic. I mean, I don't know if you follow BMX too much, but basically he made this video with Etnies at like just a few years prior to us getting there, and we were walking through Malaga, and it was like walking through a video part in real life. Like, wait, that's that gap? Like, oh, here's that and that. And so like everywhere you would go in this city, it would be another banger clip from his segment, and it was the craziest thing. And then on top of that, to see Ruben actually ride was
Uh-huh.
just
You see, I've been wanting to go to New Zealand and ride because there's literally you got everything there is extreme. The only things that will kill you is the things you can do. There's nothing there that can kill you like animal wise, but you
yeah.
got some of the most extreme. I mean, I worked for a piano company or music company, and I moved pianos. And one of the guys that was there was a Kiwi. He was from New Zealand, just ripped, chiseled. I can't do their accent. I do it, and everybody make fun of me and unclick. But he would tell me stories of like going off waterfalls on a boogie board with a full face helmet with handles on the boogie board. They would go off waterfalls and dive into the water, and he said he'd mountain bike and do crazy stuff there. I just want to go to New Zealand. It sounds fun. Sounds awesome. Let's see. We're getting some more questions. Greg, I'm destroy his name. Gurchisenson. Gurchisenson. You got some. I think these are your friends. These are with Lutze. Ask him how he threw one of the largest, best fixie competitions in the world. How it came about. Red Bull Ride and Style.
Yeah, Red Bull Ride and Style was an event in San Francisco that we did in Justin Herman Plaza. It's right there on the Embarcadero, basically like the center of San Francisco. It's
Mm-hmm.
a huge red plaza. Used to be an iconic skate spot, actually. And Steve Blick from Oakley actually helped me put the event together. The basis for the event was a rideable art installation. And so we had actually Jeremy Wytek, who built a bunch of the stuff in Bentonville, and he's built
Mm-hmm.
all kinds of stuff
Mm-hmm.
like all over the place. Way back, he built all these kind of crazy features, and there's like some quarter pipes and wall rides and stuff, but we kind of just we just turned him loose. Like, here's a bunch of wood, go make stuff that's awesome to ride on. We're gonna throw a contest.
Yeah.
And so he had this warehouse where he would build everything. Todd Barber, who actually organized or still organizes Red Bull Rampage, was the contest director. So that he and I kind of worked together on everything. And then we brought in 3 to 4 of the best artists in the world. And we did this event a couple years in a row. And we bring in artists from all over the place and just kind of like, all right, here are all these crazy features. They didn't really understand like what people were going to do on bicycles with them. They just saw like weird shapes, that were made out of plywood at the time. And we just like, here's a bunch of paint, go just do what you do. And they would just like put their signature looks on each one of these features. And then we hauled all of them into this big plaza, and then we invited all the best fixed gear riders in the world there to kind of interpret the obstacles, to ride
Yeah.
everything and just
Awesome.
throw down. We saw somebody backflip a fixed gear. I mean, it was like crazy. And that was really when I think fixed gear was kind of peaking. So we
Yeah.
had all the hitters from all around the world, and it became one of those things where it was really the only big fixed gear competition in the world. So everybody came to it because it was like your chance to be recognized among the best. And yeah, it was really cool. Like the creativity from not only Jeremy and the artists, but also the riders on top of that. It was just like so new in every capacity, and that was a fun one. That's like, yeah, rideable art installation,
That's
you
nuts.
know.
Stuff you want to take home with you
Yeah,
and put it up in your
yeah.
living room, and your wife yell at you, "Get that out of here." That's awesome, dude. You've seriously gotten some like that. That's kind of the stuff that, yeah, you watch on your phone, and people are like, "Oh, I'd love to go see that someday," but very rarely get a chance. You've lived the dream 99% of us want to do. That's awesome. I keep getting the amazing questions from Eric. How did Boyko do laundry on the Malaga trip?
Oh man, I hope Boyko's not watching. So Ben Boyko was my roommate for the Malaga trip, and you know, we were there for 2 weeks. You can't have fresh clothes the entire time. You got to do laundry at some point.
Uh huh.
And so he disappeared a lot during the trip. We nicknamed him the Phantom on this trip because he would just be riding, and then we'd be like, "Where'd Boyko go?" And on one of the occasions, he came back with this box of like some kind of detergent of some sort to wash his clothes
Uh huh.
because he's been riding a lot. He'd been sweating through all of his gear and everything, and he just needed to, yeah, he just needed to get it all cleaned out. And so I came back to our room after dinner one night or something, and I see Boyko. And let me back up. So we're in Spain, and in Spain, every bathroom has a bidet as well,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
And that's just
Never used
common
one.
for, yeah, me neither. Uh,
I keep
anyway,
joke.
so
I keep joking it with the whole toilet paper being out of stock. I keep joking to the wife I'm going to buy a bidet, or I'm going to hook up. We're redneck. Hook up the water hose and just drain it into the bathroom. We'll use that.
I've got to imagine it's a very similar sensation,
I
but
don't.
I don't know.
I don't want to. I don't know. Go on. Go on.
So anyway, so there's a bidet in our hotel bathroom that's unused, and I walk into our hotel room after dinner one night, and I hear Boyko washing his clothes in the bathroom,
Oh
and I'm
no.
assuming like maybe
Oh
in the
no, dude.
shower or whatever.
Uh huh.
And I walk into the bathroom. The door was open or whatever. I walk in, and there's Boyko hunched over the bidet,
Oh
washing his
god.
clothes in the bidet, and yeah, I have a photo. I think I posted it a while ago, but I have a photo that I took of Boyko kind of looking over his shoulder at me, like, "What? What? It's normal, you know." And I think at the time he was like, I think he said something like, "Oh, they clean these. They clean in between every guest." I'm like, I don't know, but that was how Boyko kept his clothes sparkling clean for
Mr.
2 weeks.
Bidet. Mr. Bidet. You got a little spot right here. You got a spot right here. That's awesome. That's awesome. So, going to your YouTube channel. How recently did you start that channel?
so I
Lutze Time.
so I started. I think I started in October, like early October, and I didn't really say anything to anyone until about the middle of November. I just wanted to kind of start putting stuff together, learn the platform, learn all the stuff that went into it. And kind of the idea behind it was just like, okay, I know how to ride bikes, I know how to edit video, and I've done both for a really long time. Could I put these two things together, and what could I learn so that I could maybe pass that on to some of the athletes I work with? One of the things I've been seeing is everybody kind of wants to start their own kind of platforms, whether it's YouTube or elsewhere, like just trying to get a better hold of everything. And so for me, it was like, well, I could probably pick this up faster than a normal, like if you didn't know how to edit video or if you
Mm-hmm.
weren't a pro trials rider or whatever. So I realized I had a lot of the elements already in place. I'm just going to start putting stuff together and just learn. And honestly, like the last year, I feel like I've kind of needed a creative outlet anyways, being trapped in my house and taking care of the two kids while my wife is at the hospital working. Like I definitely needed just some kind of way out mentally, and so for me it was just a really good outlet to start, firing up the editing suite again, get the cameras going, and start putting stuff together just for myself more than anything. It's such a satisfying feeling to create again,
Yeah.
especially after, when I came to Red Bull 11 years ago. I went from, carrying around this camera bag and being responsible for putting all the content together to then being on the other side of like bringing in content creators, bringing in filmers and editors and stuff to do the stuff for us. And so I hadn't really done a lot of editing other than for like a side project here or there for like, you know, somebody got engaged and I edited their engagement video or something like that for whatever. Actually, that's how I met my wife. But you know, like I just hadn't really done a lot of editing and filming, and it was just a good way to get it going. And so I started just filming stuff that I was doing, and then started riding a bit more and just kind of getting my wheels under me a little bit more. You know, I hadn't been like seriously back on the trials bike as much in quite a while. So I just started getting kind of blowing the dust off a little bit. And then, yeah, I got to a point where I felt like, oh, now I can share this with people. Like I feel pretty confident that I have something worth sharing and that people will be hyped on it. And yeah, I just kind of flipped the switch mid-November and now just been going strong since. So
It's going good. You got about, I think I saw 300 and almost 310 subscribers on there, and that's pretty quick. Real quickly, if you would like this video really quickly, so we can get it helps me with my algorithm. Give a thumbs up, smash real quickly, just a little advert in there. Your channel, you really show, and that's what I was super pumped about having you on. You got some awesome skill, and like I had said, you know, earlier today when we talked, your channel is good enough that I know it's gonna grow. I know it's gonna do good. You have the skill of writing, and you have the skill of editing. Which everybody on here already knows, but that's two stinking combinations. And you know some awesome people. You know some people that I think will help promote you and all that. And hopefully this gets a little bit of subscribers for you. So again, throw it out there for anybody who has not known Aaron yet. Make sure you go down and subscribe to his channel. You won't be disappointed. Where do you think you're gonna stick with whole trials? On your channel, or are you going to do if I recall, you have some POV, if I'm right, from actual mountain biking. Am I wrong?
I've done a couple things here and there. I think, you know, I have a lot of different ideas of stuff that I'd like to do, but I think they'll all have some element of trials in them, just because that's kind of who I am.
Yeah.
I'm working on building up a bike right now that's a bit more of a cross-country bike that I can essentially do kind of cross-country bike tutorials. So any kind of trail rider could pick up a trials element here or there that they could throw in. And I think that, like, you know, I could show you the same trick on my trials bike, but you're going to look at me like, yeah, right. Like, I got to have that thing, you know? And so if I'm doing the same thing on a bike that's got a 90 mil stem and you know, like 27.5 or 29-inch wheels, like, I feel like people will probably take it a little bit more seriously. Like, oh, I can actually do this, you know? And so that's kind of the next project that I'm working on, is just doing maybe like a small series about how this stuff actually applies. It's not just like,
That'd be awesome.
Me going out and, you know, side hopping 3 or 4 foot walls, but it's like, hey, you can do a lot of these basic things on the trail, and here's how it's going to benefit you, and here are the steps to get to that point. And a lot of the stuff in trials, like, you can practice most of it on a curb or, you know, a small ledge or something like that, and then take it there. You know, for me, it's like, I get excited when I'm trail riding and I see a bigger rock. So I'm like, oh, now I can finally apply my trials knowledge, you know, like, whether or not I can keep up with everybody is a totally separate thing. But when it gets to the technical stuff, that's like where I get to shine, and that's where I get excited. And so if I could help everyone by giving them that excitement of like, oh, I know how to ride over something that's 1.5 feet high without even thinking twice about it, that would be like the gift that I would like to actually share. So that's kind of where I'd like to go. I mean, I have a ton of like really fun ideas of stuff that I want to do. There's a bit more hardcore trials. You know, it's funny. I was talking to my wife about, you know, all the different ideas that I have, and a lot of this stuff was actually just kind of going back to the original Match Videozine format too, of like, I want to go find other riders who are on their way up and help show the world what they're doing, and I want to go to different scenes and different cities and check out what, you know, what's there for riding, whether it's trials or trails. You know, I just have a lot of different ideas. We did something recently with like the the Gateway Green, which is the new bike park in Portland here, just kind of showing everything that was actually there. There's, pump track, dirt jumps, all these different things. I actually kind of got in trouble with them because there's a nature play area, which is all
Okay.
these giant boulders that are perfect for riding trials on, but
Uh-huh.
they're meant to be like a playground for kids.
Is that
And
what
I
you showed in your last video or a couple of videos ago?
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, and it was too perfect. I'm like, this is definitely a trial section. Whoever put this here definitely knows that it's a trial setup. And so I put some clips of me riding trials on it, and just the whole video was however long, and that I sent it to the Gateway Green people. I'm like, hey, if you guys ever want to put this anywhere or whatever to show all the different things that are at the park, because there's cross country trails, whatever. And I was like, yeah, if you ever want to, they're like, oh yeah, oh wait, no, you're not supposed to ride your bike on that part. Like, we're not endorsing that. Like, if you
Yeah.
could edit that out for us. And I was like, what? That's like the best part. So I think for me, I definitely want to try to include the trials element in everything I do, and make it as accessible as possible. I mean, you see the videos that Danny and Fabio and everybody are putting together, and they're incredible. But like, yeah, there's some stuff in there that anybody could do on any bike, and that's kind of, I want to like bring the two together, so it's not just like this magical thing,
I
but
think that'd be
something
perfect.
people can kind of grasp.
Yeah, I think that'd be perfect. Kind of combining it exactly, making people like me who know nothing. I can't even bunny hop good, uh, and learn that kind of pushes puts a fire underneath you to learn trials because it can help benefit you out on the trails. That's awesome. Um, what's up, one MTB? We got some more people showing up. Get some questions out more, some guys. Get some more questions. That was stupid. What did I just say? Get some more questions out for Aaron. Um, even you guys, Eric and Greg and Peter and Don, you guys might not know something special about Aaron. You might think you know everything about him, but you might not.
Well, here's a fun one. So Peter, who's in the chat right now, actually
Yes.
worked at Freecaster when I was working with Freecaster, and for the uninitiated, Freecaster was actually the start of being able to watch the UCI uh, downhill races on the internet. Before that, you couldn't watch anything live. It was always just like maybe a photo story from someone on Pink Bike or whatever, but you couldn't watch the World Cup. And for the first couple of years, it was only downhill and four cross. You couldn't even think about cross country. Now they have everything. But Freecaster essentially started that, and so it was. I was working on the camera side of things, and then Peter was at like the home office in Belgium getting stuff done. So he had a huge hand in making it. Building the foundation of why we can watch mountain bikes on the internet now, which is pretty
That's
special,
awesome.
I think. But yeah, I mean, there were some epic times that obviously getting to go to all these races, and seeing Rob Warner's evolution over the last 6 or 7 years, I guess it's been since we started, or actually way longer than that. But just to see that evolution from that first day, where this whole thing started was the back of a Sprinter van, a TV probably the size of my laptop that was black and white,
Uh huh.
a couple printouts that he had, and just screaming into the microphone, and it got broadcast on the internet. And then as people realized, like, whoa, wait, no, you can watch this online and on Freecaster, then the audience grew really quickly, and there was a lot more pressure on Rob to have his stuff together a bit more organized. So that was like the beginning of all of it, and there have been some just like crazy moments, some ups and downs through the whole thing. And then after Freecaster kind of passed on, you know getting it done, it was like a year of some random company had it, and then Red Bull TV picked it up and made it what it is today. But we pretty much started the foundation of that whole thing, and it was really interesting in the beginning because there wasn't support for it. Like, the bike industry didn't support having the UCI online. Like, it wasn't there was no money coming in. We were just doing it for the love, which is the
Yeah.
craziest thing to me, that like bike industry wouldn't back having their top races broadcast live on the internet. And it created some really interesting times. Like, there was this one time we were in Andorra, and if you remember, I don't even know how many years ago this was, but G Atherton, Rachel Atherton, and Dan Atherton all won the World Cup in Andorra that
Mm-hmm.
the same weekend.
Mm-hmm.
And Rachel had won. What was it? I think Rachel had won the downhill first, and then Dan won 4 cross, and it was like on G to win downhill to have this trifecta win. And everybody going into the day was like super fired up, and it was going to be this big deal if they won, and the, everything was like riding on this one moment, on this one run. She had qualified first. It was crazy, except it also rained that day. And so the track there was pretty technical and definitely really muddy, which meant that all the riders were moving a bit slower through the course. And where we were in Andorra, you had to buy satellite time. You could buy it by like these 1 hour chunks that were,
Mm-hmm.
I think it was like 4,000 euros for each increment, right? And we had purchased enough to make it through the normal window, but because everyone was riding slower, it was getting closer and closer to like, is he going to be able to ride in the window, or is it going to cut out, or do we need to buy another 4,000 euro window of satellite time for maybe 30 seconds of his run?
Yeah.
Maybe he makes it and we just wasted 4,000 euros. And remember, we're not getting 4,000 euros from anyone. This is out of somebody's pocket. Just like,
Yeah. Yeah.
all right. And so we were going back and forth. We decided to roll the dice and just not buy the extra satellite time. Like, no, maybe it's going to work out. I think it's going to be okay. We're trying to do the math, like, okay, they're running this fast. So G gets on course. The satellite's still going. We're sitting down at the bottom, just like fingers crossed. And as G is coming down the final straight into the finish line, the feed cuts out, and
Oh.
the internet just like loses its
Oh.
collective mind. I didn't go on a forum for like 2 weeks after that because I was like, oh.
Oh, jeez.
But it's like they didn't know that
No.
what we were facing as far as decisions or finances or whatever. They just expect like, well, now that this is a thing, it always has to be there for me, and it has to be perfect every time, and I don't care what it takes to get it done. And so we were put in a really difficult position with that. And thankfully there aren't a whole lot of stories about that. Usually we were able to get everything done within the satellite time, but there was always these like little interesting back and forths. Or we were in Italy, I think the following year, Val di Sole for the finals, and Rachel Atherton was doing the on-camera interviews for people that were coming off the hot seat in the World Championships. And Steve Pete was in the hot seat. It looked like he was going to win. Finally, he hadn't won at this point. And so Rachel's interviewing everybody. It's the year that Sam Hill like blew out that corner at the bottom, and the last person to go is G. And G comes down and knocks Steve out of the hot seat. After Sam crashed, we're like, oh my God, Steve's gonna get this, And G knocks Steve out of the hot seat. He's coming out of the hot seat. Rachel's looking at me like, I really have to interview him right now. Like my brother just like ruined it for him again. And I was like, oh, this is gonna be like the best interview though. We have to get this, like, So to be in this like super super tense situation with like Rachel, whose brother just won the world championship, wants to go celebrate with him.
Yeah.
Her countryman who just got unseated from like, oh, he almost won, all this stuff kind of happening in one shot. He came through the hot seat, or came through the gate. She interviewed him. He was so pro, as you'd expect Petey would be, but he was so pro about it, so gracious. Like, I don't know how anyone else could have kept it together after being that close to winning their, especially after as long as he'd been waiting too. Like,
Yeah.
oh man. But yeah, there were definitely some like crazy moments over the course of everything kind of starting up.
That's crazy. Yeah, it's when Sam blew, he blew out in you said the last turn. Yeah, and going from that's crazy. There's some crazy times, and it's hyped up. I love it. That's totally cool. We're gonna get to, let's see. Jill had already mentioned this, and I was actually about to ask this question next. She had mentioned about your insane time management skills. Eric's asking, how do you make time for everything? Job, family, YouTube, trials, ultra running, reading tons of books, etc. How do you do everything, dude?
It's just being a parent. Uh,
Bro,
you,
I'm a parent too, but you got a lot. I've seen your hair, and you don't have as much gray hair as I do. Uh, what's your? Do you have a? Someone had mentioned you read a book. There's a book probably, but I think he retracted it. Jill did.
yeah,
But
well, so I guess like starting with the books, I usually read 20 to 30 minutes before bed every night, just to you know kind of calm down before bed, but also just to like every I guess like I'm kind of permanently trying to optimize every second of the day, and
hmm
especially with a full-time job and especially with, the goals that I have and the mindset that I have, like I have to optimize every second and just kind of utilize that time to like, okay, I have this, half hour here. What can I do with it to make the most of it? And I have stuff that I really wanted to do. Like the ultra running thing for me was like I desperately wanted to do ultras, and I had to figure out a way to make that work with my schedule because there's so many non-negotiables in our life, and so you have to,
what's an
yeah,
ultra? What's an ultra again? Ultra.
anything over marathon distance. But I was running
That's
like
nuts.
50Ks, which is like 30 miles, and then a bunch of 50 milers. And then actually this past year I was supposed to run 100K, but everything got canceled,
Dang,
obviously.
bro.
So,
Okay.
but honestly, like I've kind of scaled back on the ultra running stuff so I
hmm
could make more time for riding and editing and stuff like that. But sometimes you just like bite the bullet, and like a lot of the edits that I've put out that are on YouTube, like I stayed up until 2 o'clock in the morning. Like I put my kids to bed, hung out with my wife, read, and then like when she goes to bed, I go downstairs and just like start editing away and edit until it's done, and then yeah, finish at like 2 o'clock in the morning, wake up at 6, get the kids ready for school, and like right back into it. Like sometimes I'm just really tired.
Have you burned out at all? I mean, you've got to love it. I mean, uh, I have kids. I have a wife. I have a job. It's it burns sometimes. Do you
Yeah,
have what do you do to keep yourself from burning out?
I think a lot of the books that I'm reading, and I think that the videos that I'm making now are both kind of keeping me kind of engaged in newer ways and stuff. Like
hmm
the video is making the videos, like having a creative outlet is what's actually giving me energy and getting me excited and giving me something to focus my energy into, in the same way that the books are as well. Like I'm excited about the books that I pick up and I'm reading and I'm learning stuff and developing and also sharing that with other people in my life. And so I'm just excited about those things, and that just makes it easier. Like nothing's really a slog if you're excited to do it, and so I think that's like the main thing is like I'm only doing stuff that I really want to do with my free time as much as I possibly can. And then yeah, everything else is kind of non-negotiable. Like I have to take my kids to school, I
hmm
have to go to work, I have to do these things. So every minute that's not one of those things is automatically applied to something else that I actually want to do, and developing these new skills or releasing this content that I've been working on or thinking of the next thing we're going to do. And yeah, I don't necessarily know if there's like a perfect method to it. Like I don't, I have like a schedule for my day and stuff, but I have a whiteboard with ideas of stuff that I want to try out. And so when I get those bigger windows throughout my day, I'm like, okay, can I spend a little bit of time chipping away at all these things? There's this book, Atomic Habits, where it's just like this idea of like 1% more every day, like compounds over the course of a year in a pretty substantial way. Like that's kind of the mindset that I have of like people underestimate what, or sorry, people overestimate what they can do in 1 year, but they underestimate what they can do in 5 years.
hmm
And so it'd be easy to discourage yourself by being like, I'm going to do this in 1 year and I'm going to get good automatically and whatever. But like pretty much anything over 5 years, you could pick up just about any skill or learn anything or develop anything. And I just think having like a longer horizon for getting this stuff done
hmm
mentally helps you kind of stay on target. If you set these goals that are too tight, it's like, yeah, for sure, you're going to fail and it's going to be impossible. But having these longer stretches for achieving that goal and just picking away 1% at a time is really, I think, what kind of helps me stay in it and stay engaged with all the stuff that I'm trying to do.
That's crazy. You're a deep man under there. There's some deepness, and you probably got some awesome life quotes to give everybody. What does your family think of everything? I mean, your life revolves around an extreme lifestyle. Like, just you got trials. I mean, yes, you're doing a lot of balance and stuff. You're sitting there in a small tight spot, but that's pretty extreme. The mountain biking's obviously extreme. Red Bull is an extreme company. And you're running freaking ultras. I had to ask what an ultra is because I hate running so much. That's like top notch extreme. I'd probably die. Um, what's your family think of all this stuff? It's a constant go.
They must be used to it at this point, honestly. I think they know what they signed up for.
Yeah, yeah.
Like my kids are just learning about YouTube, and
Uh-huh.
they've got their favorite channels and stuff like that. And so to see their dad show up on YouTube is like kind of a weird thing for them, but also kind of exciting. And they've been in a handful of videos, just kind of like little appearances and stuff, and that's exciting for them. So they're excited, but they don't see a whole lot of that because it's me editing after they go to sleep. So all they know is
Yeah.
that like 1 minute I'm out riding and the next minute there's a video on YouTube. They miss all the hard work. Same thing with the ultras. Like they would never see me run or whatever, but then they would be there at the finish line and be
Yeah,
like,
yeah.
what were you
He
doing all
he
day?
just walked. He just went across the line. That was it. I saw him start, and
Yeah,
then we went and ate, and he's still running. God, dude, that's just nuts.
yeah.
I have a buddy who does triathlons, and like I told you, I surf. Cycling is one thing to do that distance. I could probably do that, but running, swimming, I might be able to do 2 miles. I might be able to do that, but running, nah, nah. That's, I'll walk, and then I'll hop on a bike and cheat. I would cheat. I'd be done. That's nuts. And when does it? When do you gonna be doing this? Man, I keep getting out of focus. Get focus. There we go. When does this? Is this gonna keep going? You're gonna keep doing this? You want to do this forever until your heart stops beating, or what are you gonna?
Yeah, ideally. I mean, the ultra thing I may have to put on the back burner a little bit just to make time. That is a really heavy, time intensive thing.
Hmm.
One of the things with my job and my approach to it was I wanted to learn all of the sports of all of my athletes because for me it was like it's like Neo in the Matrix, right? Like
Yeah,
I
they're
could
coming out
go
with a
to
new one. They're coming out with a new Matrix.
oh sweet,
Did you? Yeah,
amazing.
I'm dead serious, totally serious, and it's the same people. Yeah, go ahead.
I'm in. I'm all the way in for
I'm,
that.
I'm a Matrix fiend.
For me, it was like, well, I have access to the best athletes in the world in
Hmm.
all these individual disciplines, and so it's like, I know kung fu, like, oh, I have an ultra running athlete. Can you give me kind of like the 101 and help me kind of leapfrog into this sport? And then what could I take from ultra running and apply to another sport that I do? Like, and then what could I learn from like I have a gaming athlete. I've learned a ton from him. Not necessarily how to be better at Mario, although that's maybe part of it, but like all the different things that he does, I'm picking up as well. He has a YouTube channel, for example. And so, yeah, what could I learn from every single person I meet is maybe like a good approach to life in general. But that's been something I've been doing on an athletic level for quite some time. And every sport that I've picked up along the way, I haven't held on to it for the entire time. I've just kind of brought myself up to a level of competency and continue to move on. I did like ultra running a lot. Just it's so gnarly and so crazy, but once you kind of get everything figured out, it's not as it sounds gnarlier than it really
Yeah.
is. You just have to run a lot.
I think I figured it out. You work at Red Bull. You get free Red Bull whenever you want. You just drink. That's just what you eat. You freeze it. You fry it. That's what you're doing, living on. Well, dude, it's been an hour. This went by stupid fast. I gotta close it. I have to. I can't go on for another hour, even though I'd love to. Um, you are a man of probably, like I had said, tons of information and quotes. Give me your. I used to say what do you close your videos with, but give me your favorite quote of anybody. What's your life quote right now?
Uh, How about if opportunity doesn't knock, build a door?
That's deep.
I
You're a stinking yogi, bro. It's if
No, I heard one actually recently, something that really rang true to me, that I heard around somebody posted like a kind of year end kind of
hmm
line of quotes and stuff. And one of the things that really hit me was, I think the line was something like, worrying is a misuse of your imagination. And I needed to hear that so much more than any other motivational quote. Just like, because I think we all kind of go through that where we're thinking through
uh,
like all the things that could go wrong, or our heads just get wrapped up in so much stuff. And I just needed to hear that more than any other motivational quote or phrase or whatever. That
that's
just hit
awesome.
different.
That's awesome. I like that one. Well, dude, it's totally awesome. If you guys haven't yet, make sure you guys like this video and subscribe to this channel so you can get some more of this stuff. But most of all, go to Aaron's YouTube channel, check it out, hit like on all his videos, subscribe, get the notification bell on his channel so that he can grow, because I know your channel is going to be huge, man. I appreciate you so much for coming on my show, and it's been an honor to have you, the OG, coming on here, and I appreciate it. Guys, make sure, every single time I say, make sure you lift up God, lift up life, lift up the adventure, get out there, make your own adventures. Go check out Aaron Lutze's YouTube channel. I said it right again. Aaron
Nailed
Lutze's. Check his channel. I said I might screw it up again. Gerschinson. I said his name right. He said I said it right, but fantastic. Awesome, man. Well, I'll see you guys later. God bless. Awesome, man.
Dude, thank you so